everyone to this massively joint event. And I'll let Claire take over in just a minute. But what I do want to stress here, first of all, thanks for doing the talk. From my point of view, my initial involvement in the digital divide was during lockdown, and for me, the initial motivation for this was we're in lockdown, and my parents are older now. My parents are both 80-ish at the moment. So during lockdown, that digital divide was absolutely key, because we were trying to use Skype before we had Zoom, and we couldn't do it because we couldn't physically go there and get my dad to reset his password that he'd lost. And then Zoom came along, and that made things a little bit easier. But it did massively bring home to me the fact that anyone who's suffering with dementia or any other difficulty at all, anything at all that puts them at a disadvantage already, is then further disadvantaged by the digital divide if they're also on the wrong side of that. And for me, social isolation was the big motivation for me getting involved in digital divide work at all. And that, I'm sat alone at home, and there's something going on in my life that makes things difficult. And then we're in lockdown, and then I'm on the digital divide as well. And that seems to be an utterly appalling situation to be in. And that's why I'm here. That's why I'm here as part of the Digital Divide Specialist Group. That's why I'm working in this area. So I'm really looking forward to hearing more about how we can all collaborate. Anyone who's spoken to me at all about this over the past couple of years will know that collaborations in this area are absolutely key for me. So with that, welcome, Claire. Thank you very much for this. I will go on mute, and once things quiet down here in the background, I'll go off mute so I can do the occasional nodding along to make sure that you know that there's people out there in the audience. So welcome, Claire. By the way, yeah, others, please do. If you've got background noise, certainly please do go on mute. I think everyone has already. But I'll keep an eye on the chat and the Q&A if you want to stick questions in there. If you're familiar enough with Teams to make that work, that'd be great. And then we'll cover those at the end, I think. So with that, over to you, Claire.
Thank you, Dave, and high praise indeed from you, Margaret, coming for a second time to the session. I haven't had that before, a double attendee, but thank you very much for joining, and thank you to all for logging in tonight to come to this dementia awareness session. So just a little bit about me. My name's Claire Lashbrook, and I actually work in property insurance, but I've volunteered with the Alzheimer's Society, and I've become trained to deliver these sessions. And so it's basically all about raising awareness of dementia. It could be in the workplace, in a community, in a family member. So I'm not an expert in dementia, so there might be questions today that I'm just not capable of answering. That's not sort of my remit to answer, and I'm not a counsellor as well. Again, sometimes this topic can be a bit emotive. But again, if anyone wants to take a break or needs to leave the session at any time, then please do, and you can pop back in at your own leisure if you'd like to. So at the end of the information session, I will be able to give you access to some resources, because like I pointed out, there might be questions that I can't answer today, but I'll be able to give you all of the links that you need to go online and get more information and get some support. So the session itself is probably going to last around 30 minutes, and then there will be that time at the end for any questions that you have, and maybe some more specific ones from you, Dave. So as Dave mentioned, we're going to be using the chat box today. So you'll see at the top of your screens next to people, there's a little speech bubble called chat. So as I go through the session, it's quite interactive. I will refer to the chat box. So if you could all familiarise yourselves with where that is. And if anyone wants to go into chat and say hi, then we'll all know that that's working there. So if everyone could just say hello in the chat box, that would be amazing. So it would be great if you had a smartphone to hand, because at the end, I'll be giving you all the opportunity to become a dementia friend if you'd like to. Again, it's completely optional, but in order to do that, it'd be really great if you had a mobile phone to hand, or at least a pen and paper so you can take down some information. Okay, lovely. Thanks, guys. Hi, Kevin. Hi, Mark. Hi, Shabina. Lovely. I can see everybody coming up in chat there, so thank you so much for that. Okay, so using the chat box then, I'd like to start with a bit of an icebreaker. So if I say the word dementia, could you just pop in what is the first word that comes to your mind when you hear the word dementia? So if you could pop your answers in the chat. Alzheimer's, yes. Alzheimer's. Memory loss, memory issues, memory. Wonderful. Parkinson's and disease, a slow illness. Thank you. Really good answers in here. No cure. So in terms of the terminology we're using, frustration, that's a really great one. In terms of the words that we're using and what we're typing in there, are these words overly negative or overly positive? So I don't think I need to look in the chat to have the answer to that one. So a lot of the terminology and words that we're using are negative, but you guys haven't done anything wrong, because that is exactly the perception that society has of dementia. There's the fear and the stigma of the disease, and a lot of the terminology we see in the press as well is negative. But thank you to everyone here today, because by joining the dementia awareness session, we're here to try and address some of those issues and make sure that more and more people in the community can change their perception of people living with dementia. But again, it wasn't a trick. You haven't done anything wrong. Those answers are exactly what we'd expect to see and how people are kind of perceived in the community with dementia. Okay, so what is Dementia Friends? So Dementia Friends is a social action movement which is created by the Alzheimer Society, and it designs to make dementia-friendly communities. So that can literally be villages. There are whole villages and towns where all of the shops, the libraries, the public services are badged as dementia friendly, which means that every individual in that community has attended a Dementia Friends awareness session so that they can help people in the community with dementia. But it can be a lot more than that. In my workplace, for example, I'm on a bit of a crusade. I'm trying to get everyone to become a dementia friend. I haven't completed my mission yet because there are 300 employees, but the Stoke-on-Trent branch, for example, is dementia friendly because everybody in that office has received an awareness session and has taken an action to become more dementia aware. So in order to become a dementia friend, it's really easy. So don't want anyone to be put off. Again, it's optional. You don't have to at the end of the session, but all you need to do is understand 5 key messages that we're going to be going through today on an interactive basis. And at the end of the session, everybody will need to commit to an action. But when we say an action, it can be as small as visiting a relative with dementia, or uploading a selfie to your social saying, I'm a dementia friend. They don't have to be, it's not raise £10,000 or go on a, climb Everest for Alzheimer's Society. So the actions can be as big or small as you want them to be. So hopefully nice and easy, and we'll make a load of dementia friends at the end of the session. Okay, so we're going to start off with a dementia quiz. So if we could use the chat box again for this one, we're going to start thinking about the 5 key messages through a bit of a quiz format. And again, it's not a test, like there's going to be no scores and you can't get it wrong. So if we could just go and chat, who can develop dementia? Is it A, anyone, B, only older people, or C, only women? Answers in chat. Anyone? A, yes, A, anyone? A, anyone? Anyone? Oh, top marks here, anyone. Thank you, Troy. Rory, yes. A. Oh, we've had an older people, yeah, and anyone. So overwhelmingly, people are going for anyone, but we did have an answer for older people, but the answer is A, correct. Anyone can develop dementia. Okay, so dementia is not a natural part of aging, and that is our first key message for today. So what do we think we mean by this? So type in your chat box. Dementia is not a natural part of aging. What do we mean by this? It's not inevitable. Well done, yeah, perfect. It's a disease and early onset. God, you guys are dementia experts already. I don't think anyone's learning anything new here. It's an illness. Thank you, Margaret. So not everyone who grows old will get dementia, so it's not inevitable. We have that response there. And not everyone who develops dementia is old. So in some cases, although it is quite rare, there are individuals in the UK living with dementia at age 20 for early onset dementia. It is quite rare, but again, it's just not a natural part of aging. Okay, so moving on to question 2. Again, it's going to be A, B, or C. What causes dementia? A, part of aging, B, caused by diseases of the brain, or C, it's a contagious illness. B, caused by diseases, B, diseases, B, yeah. Top marks, everybody's getting it right in chat. Yeah, so it is B, caused by disease of the brain. And that is our second key message, that dementia is caused by diseases of the brain. So in the same way that any organ in your body could have a disease, heart disease or kidney disease, the brain is absolutely no different. And if we think of the brain as a collection of fairy lights, so each fairy light is controlling a different function inside the brain. And when dementia takes hold, some of those fairy lights might turn off altogether, and some of those might start flickering or flashing or not behaving in a normal way. And for each person that has dementia, the order in which they turn off or flicker will be completely different, and different lights will be affected, which what makes it so complicated. And there's a saying that if you've met one person with dementia, you've met one person with dementia, because there really isn't any commonality between how dementia can affect a human being. But just like with other diseases, again, you'll hear this from your doctors a lot: eat healthily, don't smoke. What is good for your heart is good for your head. So you're going to want to keep a healthy weight. You're going to not want to smoke, keep yourself active. All of those things that you do for a healthy body are also going to be the correct things to do for a healthy mind as well. And people often ask what the difference is between dementia and Alzheimer's. So I think that's worth covering off in this section as well. So dementia is in the umbrella term, and there are different types of dementia. Alzheimer's, although the most common, is only one type of dementia. So there's dementia with Lewy body, frontotemporal dementia, or vascular dementia. So I believe there are over 100 different types of dementia, but don't you dare ask me to tell you what they are, because I can probably only think of about 4 or 5. But again, there are lots of different types, and dementia is that umbrella term. Okay, moving on to question 3. So is this true or false? Dementia is all about losing your memory. Is that true or false? If you could type in chat. False, 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 good, false. False, Shabina, false, David, false, Rory, false, William. Yeah, we've got a textbook, textbook cohort here today. So everybody's getting that one correct. So this is our third key message. So dementia is not just about losing your memory. So if we think back to the fairy lights we had earlier in the brain, what other aspects does your brain control? It's not just memory. So if we could put some answers in chat, could you think of any other functionality your brain controls? Ability to reason, lovely speech, movement, coordination, critical thinking, fantastic. Cognitive, speech, mobility, amazing answers. Yeah, we've pretty much covered everything there. So I think with communication, a person with dementia might forget their words, or on occasions they would use the wrong words. For example, they would see a dog and call the dog a horse. So communication is often affected by dementia as well. So there's motor skills. Again, we often think of dementia as being more of a cognitive issue in terms of it's mainly affecting your mental capacity, but there are individuals living with dementia who might struggle to have the motor skills to use a knife or fork, or they might have falls or be unable to climb upstairs because their motor skills have been affected. That fairy light is flickering or has gone off for them. So again, we think of it as being more memory and brain related, but there are actually physical impacts for some people with dementia. And what we don't often think of as well is sequencing. So again, in the brain, there are people with dementia that would potentially put on their shoes and then their socks over the shoes because they have lost the ability to put things in the correct order. So they're struggling with sequencing. Could be changes in inhibition as well. And it's useful to cover some of these because a lot of the feedback we get from the sessions, I didn't know that dementia could have an impact in that way. And there could be an individual that was previously very shy and not very outgoing that suddenly becomes really brash and really loud and a complete sort of personality change. And it can also impact people's perception, which is, again, one that you don't necessarily associate with dementia. There are individuals with dementia who would see, you know, you go into a hotel and you've got these long corridors and they've got like swirly patterns on the rug. For a person with dementia, that could be perceived as a snake. So they're not able to, recognise the fact that that's the pattern carpet. And again, a doormat at the beginning, the entrance, so you know the big black ones you get when you go into Tesco. For some people with dementia, that looks like a hole. So they might be scared and not wanting to go into the shop, and you think, well, what's wrong with this person? But it's because they're struggling with perception. They just need a bit of support to have that explained to them and to be able to go into the shop. So there's lots of different things. By having that awareness that we can maybe see when we're out in the community, that person needs help, like I could potentially help them with the issue that they have. Okay, moving on to question 4. Okay, this is a true or false one. It is possible to live well with dementia and be part of the community. Is that true or false? True. True. Eugenia, true. Lovely, Dave. True. Perfect. True. Everyone is getting it right. So again, it sounds like a bit of a trick question, but for some, yeah, Dave, I think you got that with support there. So for some people, I think the perception is that once you get dementia, that your life is over, and that it's impossible for you to be integrated in the community and to participate. But there are people with dementia who still might be able to work, or they might be able to drive still, and they can obviously still have relationships and be active. And I find this one, especially for people that are actually living with people with dementia or have them in their family, quite controversial. So I remember delivering the first session I ever did after my training was to my family, and my granny died with Alzheimer's. And I remember doing this session as a practice, and my auntie was just so cross with me at this section because the progression of my granny's dementia was such that at times it was very hard. It was harrowing for her. So she took umbrage to this statement, well, how can you live well? That wasn't living well. But there are little things that we can do just to give support. And living well means different things to different people. We're not saying that dementia doesn't bring challenges, but despite those challenges, with the correct support, it is still possible for people with dementia to live well. So support and understanding is key. The more support and understanding a person gets from friends, family, and their community, the easier it will be for them to live well with their dementia. And again, if we look back to that communication issue on that, because that's quite common, if you're interacting with a person with dementia and they're having issues with communicating, there are loads of different things you can do to enable that person to live well and to still be able to participate, rather than just thinking, well, they can't get their sentence out, they can't communicate, then I can't speak to them. So you need to give plenty of encouragement. Repeat back what you said. I know it sounds really basic, but turn off the TV so that the person with dementia can really focus on what you're saying, and make sure that if you're telling a funny story, that your body language is matching exactly what you're saying, so they can get all of that eye contact and social cue to make sure that they're participating, or they feel like they're participating in that conversation. And again, use visual aids. Again, it can seem quite patronizing, but there's no harm in saying, see, I'm getting a drink, would you like one? And then you're just gesturing to what you mean. And that it's better than not having that interaction with the person. But again, sounds like complete basics, but whatever you do, you never talk about a person with dementia as though they're not there, or talk about them rather than to them. And the aim is to try not to de-skill people. So where possible, do the task with the person with dementia rather than for them. It is so tempting to try and take that task away. Well, I'll make your lunch. I'll do that for you, because you think that you're helping. But in fact, that's de-skilling the individual. So if you're helping someone with dementia to do the sandwich with them, to help them do something, is much more powerful and supportive than to do it for them, although we're always really well-meaning and we want to do it from a place of goodness. I think it's much more helpful to help the person rather than to just take it away from them. Okay, so we're moving on to our final question here in the quiz. Question 5, there is more to the person than dementia. Is that true or false? In the chat, please, thank you. Wonderful, true. Yeah, really top marks here for everyone in class. So that's perfect. So absolutely true. Thank you, Mark. I love the capitals there. Go for it. Absolutely true. So this is our 5th key message, because it is so important. There is more to the person than the dementia. In the same way we'd look at someone with cancer or diabetes and see the person first, there is much more to a person than the dementia. So I'm going to tell you a true story now, just to illustrate that. So this was part of my training and it really resonated with me. So there was a man living in a nursing home. I believe it was in the north of the UK. I've got the details somewhere in my pack. And they basically shared the story with Alzheimer's Society about how he was quite an irritating man, because all he would do all day long in the kind of common areas was this. Hopefully you can hear that. Tap, 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 tap. And people would just be like, oh, this guy, like, how that is irritating. The other residents were frustrated. When trying to speak to the individual, the care assistants could not work out why there was this amount of tapping and what it meant. And then at one point, the resident's daughter visited from Australia and actually explained that the resident she had worked at Bletchley Park as a code breaker during the war. And so all of a sudden it was kind of, they were thinking, well, hang on a minute, it's not tap, 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 it's dot, dot, dash. So the resident had basically gone back to communicating in Morse code. And once they realized all this is part of this person's past and their history, the local scouts came in and they did like a communication piece, and they were able to have an interaction with the resident. And suddenly this person has gone from being, let's face it, an absolute pain in the behind and really annoying, to being somebody, well, wow, you're a hero, this is amazing, let's find out more about this, and to build that line of communication. And that's enabling that person to live well with dementia, because without that, they didn't have that communication piece, but now they've enabled that person to communicate a little bit more about themselves. And from that point forth, the staff, obviously, their perception of that individual had changed from being, frankly, someone sort of with a bit irritating to being a hero. So at the end of today's session, what we're going to do, again, I'll just recap, is we're going to think about taking an action and to think about what you can do differently to help people living with dementia in the workplace, in the community, at home, or anyone. Again, you may not know anyone right now, but to take an action for future. And those actions could be to keep in touch with a relative, someone that you know, or a friend that has dementia, and just to keep popping over and to have those interactions. Or you could log on to the Alzheimer Society website and donate, or you could participate in a memory walk. Yeah, you could change your language as well. That's something that is so simple that I think everybody on this call could probably do. You might want to take more than one action. Let's go for it. The first action that people take, and a lot of journalists have done this now in relation to their commitment to Alzheimer's Society, is to stop saying dementia sufferer. Because if you could put in the chat, what does dementia sufferer imply? Ooh, negative, pain, yeah, poor quality of life. They're suffering and it's bad. It's just misery, isn't it? That's sufferer. It's such a negative connotation. Thank you, Mark. Yeah, and living with this correct term. Again, top marks there. I think that was the Keith or Kevin there, because the correct terminology is a person living with dementia. So dementia sufferer, you see all those headlines. I think it's become less, but a few years ago, you'd see on the Mirror, dementia, 10 million dementia sufferers, and there would just be this kind of huge piece around how your quality of life was just, out of the window, and that you couldn't be a human being, you were just seen to be a sufferer. So if that is an action that someone may want to take today, it would be to, every time it comes up in conversation, just to say, oh, person living with, and just to not repeat that narrative around suffering and woe and misery. Lovely. So before we move on to the next little exercise, I'm just going to recap the 5 key messages. So dementia is not a natural part of aging. Dementia is caused by diseases of the brain. Dementia is not just about losing your memory. It is possible to live well with dementia, and there is more to the person than dementia. There won't be a test, and I will get those all sent up to you. So if you sign up to be a dementia friend, you will get those emailed over, so you don't need to memorize or anything like that. Lovely. So as the second part of the session, I'm going to explain to you how dementia was explained to me. And this was actually really a bit upsetting when I did my training, because my granny, as I said, had Alzheimer's, and there was a temptation for us to kind of not really understand what was going on. And I genuinely feel if I'd had this information at the time, then the way I behaved as a teen and the way my family behaved as adults would have been slightly different. So we're going to go through that now. So I know this is going to be hard, but you have to imagine that I'm 80 years old. So I'm 80, and I've got a full bookcase beside me, and it's as tall as me. Okay, well, I'm not going to stand up, so we'll just do the bookcase here at this height here. And so each book on my bookcase represents a memory or a fact. And my top shelf up here is all my recent memories. So that will be what I had for lunch today, the conversation I've just had with my partner, so very recent memories. And as we go down here, these could be my retirement party, I'm leaving the workplace, I'm in my 60s, and down here we'll have my wedding day, yeah, like when I'm just entering the workplace and as a young adult, and right at the bottom are going to be all my childhood memories. So when a person has dementia, their bookcase is rocking from side to side. So as the bookcase rocks, the books are going to start to fall off. And where do they fall off from first? If you could put your answers in chat. The top. Yeah, from the top. Near the top. Yeah. So they are all going to, perfect answers in the chat. So they're all going to start to fall off from my top shelf first. And so that will explain why a person living with dementia, all of their recent memories may be gone. And as dementia progresses, as you guys may know, there will be people living with dementia that will have lost the whole of the top shelf, the whole of the second to top shelf, the middle, and their reality might be that they're living in the kind of era that they were in the 1960s. So as dementia's gone like this, all of those books have been lost, all of those books are gone, and I'm living in the 1960s when I was in my 20s. So in that era, if I go into my kitchen and I want to make a cup of tea, what would be different for me? We put those answers in chat. So I believe I'm in the 1960s, and that's my reality with dementia. Technology, yeah, a brilliant one. Electric kettle will not be familiar. That's perfect. Yeah, so the layout in the kitchen is going to be different. The modern kitchen, yeah, loose tea, exactly. Gas. I mean, a microwave. There were so many different things that would be completely alien to an individual that believes they're in the 1960s. So I'm in my kitchen. I think it's the 1960s. Well, what might I do with my electric kettle? So you can put your answers in the chat. I think this one's going to be pretty easy. On the hob, thanks, Dave. Yeah, you wouldn't be able to use the microwave, that's correct. You'd put it on the gas. So when I fill the kettle, you as my carer or friend might think, my goodness, that's so dangerous. I'm going to have to take her kettle away. She can't make a cup of tea anymore because we can't risk this. I mean, putting plastic on there, fire, I could hurt myself. So your temptation may be to take that kettle away. But what could you do to enable me to live well in that environment? Get a different kettle. Perfect. Get a kettle for the hob. Well done, Mark. Yeah, all these are perfect answers. So again, depending on my circumstances, again, it might not be suitable for everybody, depending on their dementia, because everybody is different. But you could switch the kettle. You could put it from an old style one. In that way, I can be still supported to make my own cup of tea. And I'm embracing my reality and showing how I can live well with dementia. So from what I said so far, it might seem pretty bleak that I've got my bookcase over here and everything's, you know, flying off. Am I going to remember anything at all? But we've only really talked about the hippocampus, so that's the factual bookcase. And in that bookcase, again, the memories that we discussed, and it's got faces, names, data, numbers. And the hippocampus bookcase is really quite flimsy. I'm not going to call it an IKEA Billy because we don't do brands, but it's literally the plywood bookcase. It doesn't take much for dementia to really start rocking that bookcase and things are just sort of flying off. It's not resistant to dementia. It moves a lot of books and books are going to start falling out easily. However, thank goodness there's another part of my brain, the amygdala, which you can picture as a separate bookcase over here. And this is my emotional bookcase. And this one, thank goodness, is made of solid oak. So it's much more resistant to dementia and its contents will be safe from dementia for a lot longer. So for every book on my factual bookcase, there's going to be a corresponding emotion. So on my factual bookcase, I'm in school down here, and I had a lovely teacher, and I probably don't remember his name, but I might be able to remember how that he made me feel. So every single memory has a corresponding emotional reaction to it. So I'm going to give you an example. Remember, again, I'm still in my 80s. I'm living at home and you come to visit me and we have a massive row because I forgot your name and you've stormed out. So after you leave, my bookcase over here with the facts on is going to start rocking and those books are going to fall off. So I'm not going to remember that you've come and I probably won't remember the argument. But if you could put in chat, over on my emotional bookcase, what am I going to remember? We've had a massive row and you stormed out because I couldn't remember your name and you're really cross with me. Anger, yeah. Perfect. Fear, just the row, nothing else. Yes, Dave. So there's that feeling of uneasiness. So although I don't know why I'm frustrated, I don't know why I'm upset, I've got these residual feelings of fear, of anger, of upset. And again, because I've lost that memory, I don't know why I feel this way, but I feel confused and upset. But I'm going to give you a much more positive example on this. So imagine you've come to visit me, it's a different day, and we go out and we have a lovely time. Oh, that's a good example, Dave. Yeah, I feel like I'm angry with someone, but it's like you don't know why. It's like the residual. You wake up, you know, and you've had that dream and your partner's cheated on you or something, but you're just like, oh,
Yeah.
so angry and something's happened, but you're not sure why. So that's exactly what would happen. But I just want to put a bit of a positive spin because it can seem quite gloomy at this part of the presentation. But if you come to visit me and you take me out for the day and we go to the beach and I paddle in the sea for a bit and I love ice cream. So you get me a nice ice cream, Mr. Whippy, and I have the flake and it's amazing. So I go home. My dementia bookcase is rocking all over the place. I can't remember you've come. I don't remember the beach. I certainly don't remember the ice cream. But over here, put in chat, how do I feel? We could have some answers in chat on that one. Happy, happy, yeah. Lovely. So yeah, it's a really useful example. I feel good, but yeah, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter why you feel good because you come home and you feel loved, you feel content, I feel satisfied, I feel well, I feel good in myself and I've forgotten all about the day. So that's why I relate that back to my own example, and it's quite upsetting because there was a temptation many years ago with Granny for me to say, and my parents to say, well, let's not visit. Well, she won't remember anyway. Oh, she'll get angry, or there'll be something. And for us to think that it doesn't matter if we don't go because she doesn't remember, and that couldn't be further from the truth. So if you're thinking about not visiting someone with dementia anymore, please don't, because it's truth, they may forget the visit, and it might not be satisfying for you that they don't remember your name potentially, or they don't remember the gift that you bought or an interaction that was had, but those feelings that stay with the person are feelings of love and happiness and comfort that have stayed firm in the emotional bookcase. So yeah, please do visit anyone you know with dementia if you can. Lovely. So we're coming towards the end of the session. I just want to recap on the 5 key messages again. So dementia is not a natural part of aging. Dementia is caused by diseases of the brain. Dementia is not just about losing your memory. It is possible to live well with dementia, and there is more to the person than the dementia. So again, to be a dementia friend, all you need to do is just support these 5 key messages. So if those resonate with you and you feel that those are true, then there you go, tick. You're supporting our 5 key messages just by doing that. So again, we're going to move forward to taking our action now, and I'm going to do a screen share so that you guys can, if you've got your smartphone, can either text or log into the website to do that. Again, you can do it in your own time. If you can't do it on the meeting, it's fine. But again, I'd just like to go through a few actions that you could do, and if anyone's willing, again, don't have to, willing to share what action you'd like to take, it's a really good space for sharing now in that chat box. So you could make the work possible again by fundraising. You could volunteer to participate in research. Again, doesn't mean needles or anything like that. It could be that you're willing to take a survey or a quiz on the Alzheimer's website to help inform research. Once you become a Dementia Friend today, if you'd like to, I'll issue you with a virtual badge. The action you could take is sharing that badge on LinkedIn to say, I attended a Dementia Friend session today. I really enjoyed it. This was a really good initiative. Get involved. Why don't you go to one? And don't underestimate the impact that a positive, like a small action, can have such a huge positive impact. So again, what other ones could you do? There's loads of different ones. Again, not using the term dementia sufferer. Okay, yeah, so the transcript in terms of the call, so there is a recording. Oh, it looks like somebody there missed the chat there. Somebody's already caring for someone with dementia. My mouse is on my other screen. Let me come back over to see my chat so I can have a little bit of a closer look at that. Share my badge on social media. Thank you, Kevin. Amazing. Yeah, so what I'll be doing is giving you the links to the Alzheimer's Society website, and there are all sorts of volunteering opportunities in there. So you could register to become a Dementia Friends ambassador like I do. But again, that might be something that you're not comfortable. You might prefer to just distribute some leaflets or put a poster up in your workplace. There's very small to very big actions. I think there are some guys at the Insurance United Against Dementia that did like a Himalayan trek. I mean, I'm never going to be doing that, but I did do a memory walk with my 5-year-old at the time. We walked for 2 miles, which, you know, I think that was enough for me. But there's varying levels of obviously volunteering you can do. And again, we're not asking for a huge commitment. So thanks to you guys that have jumped into the chat there, what you guys will be up to. Okay, right, so let me get my screen share ready for this. So being a Dementia Friend, as I said, is voluntary. If you've understood the 5 key messages, you're now ready to take your action and become a Dementia Friend. Okay, so I'll just do a little screen share here. Let's go back into this window, share. Okay. Oh, I don't think my QR code fully fits in there. So again, if you want to collect the QR code, then you can. You can join at dementiafriends.org.uk. So that's a really easy way to join. Or you can text friends. That's charged at your standard network message. It's not expensive. There won't be like a £10 charge or anything for doing that. So text friends to 83080. And then dementiafriends.org.uk/livestream is another way to get on as well. Okay, so all you need to do is text the word friends or visit the Dementia Friends website. And then you can basically add in on your online form what your action actually is. So if you don't have a way of doing it right now, that's fine. Again, I appreciate some people not have their phone next to them. So you can just write that down to do it at a later time. So I'll give you a few minutes just to take down these details before I move on. It's quite important if you do want to get your Dementia Friends digital badge that you need to tick keep in touch when you're filling in your form, because otherwise Alzheimer's Society don't have permission to contact you and they would need to send that. But again, you can opt out from those communications at any time. Right, just giving everyone a few minutes to do that. Okay, so once you've done that, I will give you some links to the Alzheimer's Society and a telephone number. So Alzheimer's Society offers lots of information to help people affected by dementia, and I'll just load up the screen share for that one. Yeah. So again, as I said at the beginning, I can't really answer questions that are kind of technical or about the different types of dementia because I'm not a doctor. So if you want more information about research, about volunteering, about becoming a Dementia Friends ambassador, about caring for someone with dementia, this website, my goodness, I was saying at the beginning of the session, people just joining in, you can type anything in search and there will be articles on it. It's an absolute cave full of research and full of interesting documents for people to use. And again, the Dementia Connect support line is a really useful one as well. So if you know of somebody, you're caring for someone with dementia, or you're concerned about somebody that they might be showing some signs of dementia and you need some support, this one's really useful because although it's an 03 number, this hotline can put you in touch with local resources. So it could be a community group, it could be Dementia Friends that could come and do some community work. So there's lots of resources there for people that are just super practical. Okay, so I'll just leave that up for a little bit longer. Lovely. Okay, so website and telephone number. Lovely. I'll stop the screen share so I can't see your faces anymore. So I can't see if everyone's still with me. Okay, so that's going to bring the session to a close. I know, Dave, I think we might have been doing a bit of Q&A now about some things that are a bit more specific to your industries. But again, anything in the Q&A part, I must stress, is just my personal opinion. So the awareness session has now finished because Alzheimer's are quite keen for us to make sure that the information naturally is standardised. So we don't want people in Scotland getting, Brenda's opinion on dementia and then someone down in the south getting Claire's opinion on dementia. So in the session, it's really important that we do give the information as part of a standard session. But I just want to say thank you. So I'm really passionate. I hope that's come across about raising awareness of dementia. For me, so much research that goes into cancer and to other illnesses, and I feel that dementia is just one of those places where it can be a little bit overlooked sometimes, and yet 1 in 4 in our lifetime, 1 in 4 of us on this call will either be living with dementia, have a close family member with dementia, or be caring for someone with dementia. So that's 1 in 4 of us will be impacted in some way personally by dementia. And those numbers are scary, but that's why thank you so much for attending today. Really brilliant. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. So I saw some an applause thing from Tristy there. So I'll echo what I imagine would be everyone else's applause and thanks for this if we weren't on an online forum and hidden. But I saw Tristy clapping somehow by using Teams. So very well done, Tristy, there. And and thanks very much. Yeah, Margaret as well. Thank you. So please do either raise your hand or we'll come off mute in a moment. In fact, please feel free to come off mute now.
I think there's some things in chat already, Dave. Don't want to jump in there. But I think there's Rena's put in here that you'd like to be an ambassador. So there is actually a specific package for care workers and supporting clients with dementia. So previously, all of us would go on the same awareness session to become a Dementia Friends ambassador. But they've actually realised, I think, Alzheimer's, and this is only in the last year, that there are specific requirements for people in the care industry, and there is a bespoke package. So definitely pop along over to Dementia Friends website. So you can get that through a link on the Alzheimer's website I gave you, or just type in dementiafriends.co.uk and it will say become a friend, which you guys have already done, hopefully. You all signed up, or you can do that in your own time. But then there'll be another link inside that website that says become a Dementia Friends ambassador, which is that next level where you want to spread that knowledge and be able to just be able to spread those tools in your workplace or in other communities. So please do participate in that. Okay, so Margaret's noted about some research in here as well, but I think that was going to be one of your questions, Dave, in terms of around the gaming piece. I know that there were some members that were quite interested to understand how.
Yeah, I mean, the overall thing here, I think I'll try and phrase this not as a question, but taking your previous comments to note, but certainly this will inspire people at our end to get more involved in this, because from a technological point of view, you can imagine that gaming might be a useful thing that user experience design. So the way that we design technology to make it more useful. but one part of that is just making life not making life more difficult. People who have different needs. But then on top of that, using technology to make life actually better. So I imagine there's research going on in this area already, but using the technology, gaming is a nice example of that. How can we use this kind of thing from our point of view to contribute to making life better for others?
So there's lots of different strands in terms of tech, and again with the kind of breadth of individuals, because I think you do a lot of cross sort of departmental stuff here, trying to target that everyone. There are so many different techs in terms of like the connected homes piece that are really helping people become more independent in the home place. So smart homes is something what the Alzheimer Society are doing quite a lot of research on how those can be adapted to be user-friendly for people with dementia. Again, in terms of the medications that someone with dementia is taking, there's automatic pill dispensers where you can write in the different day, obviously a caregiver would write in the different days, which can give you the confidence that they're going to be able to medicate on their own. So I think in terms of smart lights and sensors, and again, there's even a smart hob, because we talked about earlier the kettle issue, but sometimes with the memory loss of dementia, it's forgetting that they've left a pan on the stove. And there's kind of, I think even with Alexa at the moment, there's like hunches, which Alexa and smart homes and Google Homes will realize, hang on a minute, the bathroom light has been on for 6 hours. That's unnatural. That's not a normal habit for that bathroom light to be on that long. So they were designing lots of text to make sure that it would turn your hob off, or turn your water off, or turn the lights off for you, because thinking that's not your normal natural behavior, and to be smarter. And I think there was even I can't remember in which, I think it was in Southend-on-Sea, they basically have a robot. So I think it's like child size, not a full adult size robot. It's not designed to look completely human or anything like that, but visits individuals with dementia in the care homes there, and has like an interactive display where it's doing some reminiscence learning with them. So you can interact or not interact as you may want to, but it will show like old clips of like Faulty Towers and Dad's Army and various things, which are then prompting the residents to interact with that robot. And it's less, sometimes they don't want to interact with another human being because there could be that fear, but because it's tech and they can't do anything wrong in that situation, there's no social cues with a robot, is there? So they're finding a lot more interaction with individuals that may have previously been withdrawn, because the robots approach them and they're like, well, what is this? And they're starting to have that functionality and laughing again and interacting again, where it's a less pressured environment because it's a robot. So there's no judgment there, is there? And the robot's not going to point and laugh at you if you do something wrong. So there's a lot in the space around AI, robotics, and again linking on to what I was discussing with Margaret before this, where she's mentioned game changer in there. So again, that could be an action for people on this call. At the moment, there's a strand of research being run by Oxford University. If you go into the search bar on Alzheimer's Society and type in game changer, it will come up initiative for if anyone will be willing to participate. All you have to do is play online games on obviously an app that they provide for you for 5 minutes a day for a month. So it's not a very big commitment. You could just do that in the morning or on your break at work. And all of that data is going to be gathered by University of Oxford to work out how games can obviously help people with Alzheimer's ultimately, in terms of, there's been a lot in the press about using Super Mario, I think, in terms of if you play Super Mario for a period of time when you're sort of aging, it enables you to, in a 3D environment, to recall facts and memories easier. Don't ask me why. I don't know why. But there's a lot of research on that as well. But again, Alzheimer's Society website, if you want to participate in Game Changer, that's on there. So
nice. And then that answers that other question there. So I mean, from a digital point of view, from a tech point of view, I guess there's easily two. I mean, there's many strands, but there's two viewpoints, I think. One is, how can the digital tech industry help out, and that will be underway. The AI thing especially is an obvious thing from our point of view, I think. But another aspect of that perhaps is individuals who aren't involved in tech research, who aren't involved in producing stuff. Can we use tech ourselves? If we've got friends, family, loved ones who have dementia in some way, is there something we can do with tech to help them? And I realise that you're not in a position to answer some of these questions,
no,
but that's an
that's
interesting
fine.
question
In
for
terms
us.
of the first thing I would probably do would be the tracker. So I think someone actually might have put this in chat as well, because there's a lot of wearables now these days. And with Granny, like making it about my personal experience, this is going back, oh my goodness, I would probably only been 10 then. So we're talking about like 25 to 27 years ago. So a long time ago, that technology didn't exist. And we were so blessed that in Portsmouth, where my Granny lived, there was such a fantastic student community, because Granny would regularly go out at 3 in the morning Like literally, she would leave her home, dressing gown, all dressed. She was like, I'm going to the shops, thinking it was the middle of the day, wasn't able to recall, didn't know where she was going, and then couldn't get back. So obviously after that, she did end up going into a specific care home for dementia, which was a lovely place. But when those issues were happening and it was early days, there was a reluctance for us to, you know, try and take her out of the home environment. And these students would just find her at like 3, 4 in the morning, and oh bless them, they would just take her to the police. And we started again. It was very basic wearables back then. It was literally a band saying call this number, and if she'd taken it off, then what are you going to do? Like, we tried to make her wear it, but if she's going to cut it off, and you get ones where you can't really take it off. But yeah, nowadays you would just get a wearable, wouldn't you, in terms of a tracker for that? So I think someone's put in there, but there's developing, yeah, it's kind of like when you have the Find My Keys, really. I know it sounds quite, well, that's for objects, but it's not. It could be for anybody. You could put it on your pet. You could put it on an individual. People are using, obviously, Track My Phone, Track My iPhone. So I think in terms of using it to assist someone with dementia, if they are an individual that does tend to not be able to remember how to get back from certain places, then that's just keeping them safe, I think, and having a conversation with that individual about this could be really beneficial. It will be a lot less stressful if you do go for a walk and then, you know, you can't remember where you're going, that we can help you. So just having a conversation with, it's not, you know, spy games, is it? But you're just having a conversation with that individual about how you can keep them safe. And I think someone put in here in relation to whether using smart hubs, Harmony Hub, to change TV channels remotely. So there are a lot of things that you can do, even if you're away from the person living with dementia, that you could assist by closing curtains remotely. You can change TV channels remotely. Obviously, a lot of things with Ring as well. You can check in that to make sure that the property's secure. You could be alerted if there's an intruder. There's just so much you can do to see, and that just doesn't apply to dementia. Obviously, it applies to anyone that's vulnerable, really.
Yeah, I think there's 2 points there. So I'll answer Mark's question, sort of, which I imagine he's asking for the benefit of others. Is that, are they integrated or standalone? Apple certainly, a little bit pricey, but Apple certainly do these trackers for anything. So Apple will sell you these trackers that will link into existing Apple systems, so phones and laptops and stuff, for anything. So you put this on your bike, put it on your bag, put it on anything at all, and give us, $300 because you've bought 10 of them, that kind of thing. There'll be standalone systems as well, I imagine. But
so Kevin seems like an expert in chat on this, because he's actually using those systems already. So definitely more of an expert than I am in terms of their application. So
thanks. There's an interesting similarity there, though, I think, which is that a conversation that we have in the Digital Divide group really quite regularly is that while we're talking sometimes about providing tech solutions to problems by, allowing people to have better access to the internet, where they're more comfortable with it, where they know how it works, where they've got the connections, where they've got the data availability, the affordability as well, all these things. What we do need to bear in mind is that we're talking about solutions to social problems, really. We're talking about actually providing solutions to people who are disadvantaged. And this feels really quite like you can't just give someone a tracker. What you need to do is have a conversation about, you might be vulnerable, and I'm going to phrase this badly because I don't have the expertise to phrase it well.
They usually don't like it when you call them vulnerable. When I say there's a big generalization, but people in general, that you need that. This is about safety.
And Mark, holistic approach, absolutely there. Because it's that. Because actually, what we're trying to do with the digital divide thing is make life better for people. And in fact, the BCS tagline overall is making IT good for society. And I think the digital divide stuff is a good example of that, because we're not just delivering laptops to schools. That doesn't help at all. What we are trying to do is make education better for children who are vulnerable, make education easier for teachers, make life better for people who are suffering in some way. This is kind of the aim here. This is very much the aim here. So I kind of like that crossover of themes into this area as well. But thanks for that.
Thank you.
So I think we've covered all the questions, and there's nothing in there. There'll be a light on the QA, I think, if there are any questions in there explicitly. So no, there's nothing in there. Oh, I saw another one come in though. Thanks. Yeah, I absolutely echo those thanks from everyone there. So in the absence of any other questions, we'll wrap it up now. I think the recording will be made available. Thanks very much again, Claire. I certainly had my eyes open to a number of things. I did. I was on the verge of tears for a couple of points there, because that they're going to remember the emotions even if they don't remember the details.
It's hard for me. I take up sometimes when I'm delivering, especially when other people are emotional as well, because I just think, well, I didn't know that, and I feel horrible. about some of the way that I've behaved. But this is such a small session to do. It takes a very limited amount of time. And just by having that awareness, you could see that person struggling in the shop, and instead of, oh God, I'm like annoying, like just be, well, they might not want help, but you could also potentially, if you are that type of person, have the confidence to say, are you struggling? Could I help you with that? Do you? Again, supermarkets are one of those places where you can see people struggling. A lot of people walk by, don't they? And in terms of sometimes a person with dementia could be hearing music and songs that, there was one example that came in one of our sessions where it was a cover, you know what Westlife do, and they would take a song that's from ages ago. My mum used to hate it. She's like, that's not a boy's own song. That's by so-and-so from like 20 years ago. But a person with dementia is getting really angry because they can hear the song lyrics, but it's not the right music. So getting really agitated and, oh, this is wrong, and getting quite upset. And with knowing what the impacts of dementia are, you could potentially help that person manage that situation. So I think it's a great session if you can encourage anyone to pop along to a session. And again, the Alzheimer Society do advertise the Dementia Friend session. And if you need anything in your workplace, then add me on LinkedIn, Claire Lashbrook. I'll be happy to come and do any in-house if it's not too far. If it's local Southwest, obviously in-house face-to-face sessions or digital sessions. So I'll do as many as I can until we've conquered the world. So.
Yeah, and Carmen, I was gonna say something very similar to what Carmen said there. That's one of my third personal rules is that one. It's you don't know what's going on in someone else's life. Don't be unpleasant to people, even if you're having a bad day. You don't know what's going on. You don't know what's under these. And in fact, that chimes with something you said earlier. Just look that little bit deeper to see the whole person there. Yeah. So thanks for that. Thanks everybody. Thanks Claire again, especially.